Thank you so much for staying with us on Fafanua Africa. We have talked extensively about the opportunities in the tech world before going on that short break, but now we're going to be looking at the Africa music industry. Now, African music is on the rise with a growing number of festivals and collaborative efforts among music professionals, leading to increased revenues and employment opportunities. Now, as the continent's music industry continues to evolve, it's crucial to take a closer look at the current status and the current potential for growth. However, there is still work to be done to fully capitalize on the potential of African music. This includes addressing the challenges like access to resources, copyright protection, infrastructure for music education, as well as training. Now, joining us to discuss extensively as well the African music industry is Olukayode Adebayo, an entertainment entrepreneur in Lagos, Nigeria. Thank you so much, Olukayode, for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
My pleasure. All right, we're talking about the African music industry, right? I think that it's right to start off by asking, what do you think has contributed over time till now to the rise of the African music on the global stage?
Well, from my own perspective, I'll say it's just pure grit, basically. Grit from the young people, their passion, their love for what they do. And I think there was a time within that whole space of really discovering who we were that the young people eventually looked at music and they looked at the type of music that they had, and it became personal.
Olukayode, are you there?
That they had.
Okay.
Yes, I'm here.
All right, please go ahead.
So with the level of grit that they had, the level of passion that they had, and the kind of confidence that they had in themselves, they took especially the Afrobeat genre, and they ran with it. And it's not a surprise that we see what we are seeing now, because it's more like something that has been in the works for more than 15 years now. So this is more like the reward time for those that really put in the energy and the work into it.
Right. Now, Olukayode, we hear of so many music festivals around the world. There's the Cannes Festival, there's the Coachella, there's so many different festivals. And we see the emergence of African musicians, African artists being present in these festivals and also, winning global awards as well. My question is, how do you think that these global festivals impact the growth and the visibility of African music?
Well, festivals, yes. These festivals that are all around the world are big. Just like you mentioned, we have the Glastonbury, we have the Coachellas, and somehow our own people, our own products from here, our talents here they've become mainstream artists. The Afrobeat genre has become mainstream, and it's of no surprise. Since 2017 till now, Afrobeat stream has grown 550% on Spotify alone. We've not talked about Apple Music and a lot of all these other platforms. We've seen streams grow in billions generally. So it means that a lot of people are listening to this music, and a lot of people like the brands that have been cultivated out of this genre of music. And these people are longing to be able to experience these people live, want to see them, want to hear their music and have that feel, that experience basically. So it's something that is quite good by the festival organizers now to start to impute Afrobeats, and not even just to give it a back-end approach towards it. They make it forefront, and most of our artists right now have become more like the headliners of the top events. For example, Burna Boy shut down Glastonbury maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. We saw him also perform to 100,000 crowd in Morocco very recently. Our People Wireless, festival just happened in the UK some few days ago, and you see a lot of our artists on those places. So for them, it's even economic benefit. It's commercial value for the organizers of that to have our people there, because they know that guarantee these people are listening to these artists, and of course, these artists will be selling tickets. So it's a business thing, and it's good that these global organizations are picking it up and they are using that and leveraging it, to be able to make financial benefits for themselves.
So would you say that the supposed pressure, it's like there's an unspoken rule or an unspoken pressure that whichever Afrobeat artist is coming after, you mentioned that since 2017, it's been more like a hit, like they call it back to back. So would you say that the pressure on the younger generation of Afrobeat artists have made them do more for Afrobeat, because it's like once there's a new artist on the block, the person goes all out with Afrobeat and the world is celebrating the music? Do you think it has anything to do with that pressure to uphold the Afrobeat standard? And then do you think it helps them, basically, it motivates them to do better with their music?
Well, yeah, typically it does, because, let's go back to sports, right? Remember that there was a time when sports used to be like the outcasts survival situation where he couldn't make it well in school, so he needs to do sports just to kind of find something and get himself busy. Mm-hmm. But eventually we saw sports, football become mainstream, where we were producing the best players in the world, people that featured in world tournaments, and of course became part of the people that were even involved in world, when you say they want to build a World Cup team, we found like 2 to 3 of our players involved there. And these guys were making a whole lot of money in Europe and other markets in which they played. So it's the same thing for Afrobeats now. So for Afrobeats now, our art is a healthy competition because it's a global market. The music market is $30 billion in revenue annually. And, everybody wants a pie, a small, everybody wants a part of that big pie. And the good thing about it now is that if our music has become mainstream and everybody is paying attention to it, the question there also will now be, who is at the forefront? Who are the ambassadors of that genre? So you kind of see a healthy competition happening among the young ones. And there's always that, willingness to want to displace the next person there in some form of popularity. And I believe that it's healthy competition. And we should encourage it. And even beyond the music artists that are in the forefront now, we start to see producers also. We start to see artist managers. We start to see a lot of people that are at the back end area of the industry also getting their flowers also, and getting a lot of income, even foreign exchange income from what they do for the ecosystem. So it's interesting, it's an interesting time. And I believe that it's only going to grow bigger, because seeing Africa, especially Nigeria and the Afrobeat genre, sits on top of that cultural food chain. And generally, because we have a lot of Nigerians all spread around the world. So these are more like bees. Just like a bee would kind of pollinate flowers and move it around. So that is what Nigeria and our immigration around the world has become for even our music. So we now have a market to be able to export what we created here locally. The brands that were developed here locally, we now have demand for them internationally, just because Nigerians are spread across the world. And these Nigerians have relationship with friends and all that. So it has become more of like it's like a virus that have moved around across everybody. So it's a good time for these guys, because a lot of them are making good amount of money now. And of course, they are doing quite a lot for the image of Nigeria. It's hardly anywhere you go to now where you ask, where you say I'm Nigerian, and anybody will be asking you, where is that? Because if you know Nigeria, you know Burna Boy, you know Wizkid, you know Davido, and you know a lot of these guys. And it's been quite an interesting time.
Right. Okay. I would also like to ask, what are the challenges, or what challenges do you think that African music professionals face in terms of increasing their revenue and, opportunities?
Well, just like everything that starts and that has grown, now we've left the development stage. We are at the growth stage now, and then and at the growth stage that we are now, there's a need to scale what we have. We know that the rock music is like the most, rock and hip hop has been the most, the genre that has the highest level of engagement out in the world. Can Afrobeats become that? And if Afrobeats can become that, it means Afrobeats needs a lot more professionals to get involved. They need a lot more staff. Just like you have a sector or you have an industry, and you have everybody from the top level of the industry to the down level of the industry. It's a whole ecosystem. So now the question is that, can we get the whole ecosystem to be wider? Can we say, if we had only 5 artist managers that have gotten the genre from where it is now to where it is, can we make them 50 now? Can we make the producers, if we only had 5 of them or 10 of them that got it to this level, can we now have 150 of them? So it's a growth process now. And anytime that you have a situation around growth, you need upskilling, basically. So you need exposure, you need them to upskill, you need them to get more training, more education about the music business as it plays out on a global level. So number one, I would say human resource. Growing that human resource to be able to kind of support that growth and expansion process is very necessary right now. Matters around, for example, monetization. Can we start to look at how every person in the industry gets a piece of the pie and not just only one person enjoying it all? So can we find ways to, for their career to be able to grow better at the global level? Can we find different streams of income from their talents and their skills that will come and support them so that you encourage more people to come into the industry? And then I believe that a kind of structure too is needed, structure of being able to look at inputs and then calculating the requisite output that will come out of that is also very necessary. And I believe that there are different aspects that needs to be engaged. The government needs to come in for more training to happen, for more funding to happen. And a lot of all these things are very necessary right now. So majorly, I'll say 3: education, training, exposure, monetization, career growth opportunities. And the third one generally is some form of structure so that somehow we don't just work. Everybody understands, if I put this level of input into this particular industry at this particular time, I should be able to get better output and eventually get better reward for my time and my energy that I put into it, basically.
All right. Also, I'd like to find out, what role do you think that copyright protection plays in the growth and sustainability of the African music industry?
Well, I think it plays a certain role, but I think that certain role also will need human capacity, right? Because the people that protect this interest, whether the legal professionals that protect it, the licensing professionals that protect it, the royalty analysts that look at the whole analysis, all these guys generally need to be upskilled to what plays out on the global level and what is the norm at the global level, what are the standards, so that they can take those standards, apply them to a local product, and then of course that local product that has global translation now, everybody involved in it will be able to partake of it. So copyright is very interesting, is very needed, because beyond the music in itself, there are now experiences that are also one way or the other valuable. There are products that are attached to those experiences that are valuable. There are brands also that are attached to the music also that are valuable, and all these particular stream are all monetizable. So if you don't protect it from the beginning, in order for you to be able to get the most value in front of that whole process, then it becomes an issue. Even investors will want to ask, this thing that I'm getting into, is this something that is protected already? Because if it's protected, then it means that to a large extent, and you are showing me this level of projection of numbers of income that can come from it, then it's investable. But if you don't have those things, if it's something that anybody can just come and pick out and steal, and eventually can become diluted, then it becomes something that investors are very wary to want to get into. And of course, it means that there's a lot of value that won't be captured. There's a lot of value that won't be shared, within the industry, and it becomes a lot more, growth becomes stunted, basically.
All right. Also, talking about the African music industry and the revenue generation power, what initiatives or programs do you think? Because of course there has been conversations around the federal government stepping in and beefing up this sector. So, what initiatives or what programs do you believe would be beneficial for increasing revenues and employment opportunities when it comes to the African music industry?
Well, number one, I think very deliberate partnerships needs to come in. For example, I belong to a network called Arts Connects Africa, which is a kind of like a brain trust, kind of like a resource people that are technically savvy. These are Grammy Award winners and all these people that are coming in and saying that we are passionate about getting Africa's product and African's brand into the globe, and then also getting the world to be able to come into Africa also, to be able to form that business and commercial value that is needed to be able to go around. That is very important. Then also, there is a need for technology to come in here. Technology that, for example, is a global business. That means that we have developed a lot of local people here that have been able to take Afrobeats and take it on the global level. Can those talents now become very useful in developing global businesses where Western companies can apply, can engage our local talents here, and then eventually get those talents to work for international enterprises and get the requisite income, foreign exchange into our economy. And, the government needs to come in, policies needs to come in where it encourages investors to be able to come into our place here and come and build infrastructures here that can capture a lot of value in that. For example, I know a company right now that is doing the whole human resource thing called Crowd. And all these companies are already hiring people on the ground here on behalf of international companies. And these people that have been hired, the professionals in the industry, are getting 4 times more than what they would have gotten if they were being patronized by local companies. So it's a work for everybody, basically. The ministries, the creative economy minister, all these people need to be able to come together, sit down, talk, and then see and deliberate that this is something that can be really economical, commercially interesting for Africans, for Nigeria, and then approach it deliberately that way to be able to build the necessary human and material infrastructure that can allow the growth and eventually for food to be on everybody's table, basically.
All right, Olukayode Adebayo, entertainment entrepreneur in Lagos. Thank you so much for joining us to discuss the African music industry. And we hope that all of these suggestions are, things that the government hasn't planned, and even the industry in itself, to boost the revenue generation power and, of course, visibility on the global stage. Once again, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
Bye.